Welcome to another high probability trade recap for the day of 18 January 2023. We're going to be looking at the NQ. I'm sure we'll look at, because this will be a short video, we'll look at the ES and maybe we'll look at oil as well. So first up, the top lessons, there was 3 high probability trades today. Really, it was just a straight up momentum short day. You had no reason to argue with the chart. So the top lessons for today is you shouldn't have argued with the chart at all. There was never a point that you should have been fading, and there was really never a point you should have argued with the chart. The other thing that would have helped tremendously is really understanding intention. So that's something that's in the training. I talk a lot about intention because intention gives you early clues on what the market wants to do, whether or not it wants to hold up the momentum indicators and especially the bias indicator. So let's jump over to a chart. So as I said, looking at the NQ here in our standard 4 chart setup. By the way, I did just release that video on YouTube that explains this 4 chart setup for those that are not familiar with it. In the members area, there's a detailed video, and then there's going to be a tremendous amount of detailed videos about going into the philosophy of this, but also there'll be a lot of trade breakdowns. So the member video after this will break down these trades on this chart. But it should be very obvious. It was tried to actually break out, created a level here on the golden time frame. This is your first high probability trade. If we go back into chart 2 here, we can see it's very clear. This is kind of a standard pattern we look for. So that's a super pattern. And then it just stayed momentum short. It broke the opening range low, and when it did, it just stayed momentum short all through the day. And then you really only had 2 opportunities to add to your trade, and really 2 opportunities where if you got out of a trade because you were trading off, maybe you took profits where it really did stall. So there was a couple areas where it made sense to take profits where it stalled, but then you had 2 additional times. This would have been late into the session here, right around 2:15 Central Standard Time. But you got another great trade going into the close. So those are your 3 areas. If we shoot over here, one of the key things that you should see is that today, and this is something to consider, the 60-minute, at least on the NQ, has lost bias, and it's turned momentum short. So this is the first intention that should have gave you a clue. So once you saw this on the 60-minute chart, it should have gave you more confidence if you were trading these pullbacks here to momentum checks and to bias checks, that was the right trade to do, because this candle gave you all the confidence that you needed to execute these trades and let them play out. Stop losses is really obvious. Stop loss should have been above the RDA for a protective stop. If you got a little bit more aggressive, you were probably trading off chart 2. That would be where your entries are. But there's very clear patterns here all through the day. So let's go to the ES. Let's just look at the ES just for the sake of looking at it. So if we look at the ES chart, we will notice, let's go to current bar. Same pattern, the same pattern. So really, let's go to here. So there should be no surprise. The ES followed the same pattern. Little bit different look on chart 4, but overall it's the same pattern. So really, it didn't matter what you traded today, the NQ or the ES. It's the same pattern. Maybe a little bit different times on setup, but it really followed the Rexdog system as far as a momentum short day really well. So it was clear early in the day that it was going to be momentum short. This is where you had, I will say this for anybody that had a problem trading today, if you faded at all today, you shouldn't have faded. There was no really, this is the only good fade location here. And even then, terrible fade location. So okay, well, let me say, for a beginning or immediate trader, terrible fade location. For someone that is an elite trader, then it's a great fade location. But for someone just getting started, or for an immediate trader, you're guessing at this point in time because you don't have enough experience to fade trade. You should have been momentum trading the whole day. It was biased short, and it was momentum short all through the day. So this is like one of those days where if you would have stayed on this position, if you entered a position here, you had multiple opportunities to add to that position, and then you really didn't get any signal to get out until here. And even then, all you had to do is be patient, and you got no signal to get out of any short trade. There is no signal at all on this chart to get out of any short trade. So if you did, you should look at your real-time decision making and change your real-time decision making, because that means you probably weren't being patient for the closes. So a lot of this is being patient for the closes. You should have, the best execution of a day like today is that you entered a trade here where you got the first signal and then the next entry area, and then you just sat on it and were patient, because the chart never told you to get out of that trade until close. So that's something, if you did trade today and you didn't follow that, that's something that I would look at and see how you can improve that. All right, so let's move on to the members section. If you're members, this will be in the members section, and we'll break down really just 2 of these trades because it's the same patterns. So it should be very obvious to members, so this will be a short video for members as well.